Oh, hello, good people of the internet. My name is Jennifer Belair, and I am a human on this planet. I'm not going to give labels to myself because that's always changing, and that's kind of what this episode is all about. I'm titling this very first inaugural episode The Art of Health. Art, because I've always identified myself as an artist, as a creative person, and I always will, definitely always will, but I'm on this new pursuit of health, wellness, and well being, and that's what this channel is all about. It's kind of a culmination of my own squiggly brain way of seeing the world and the various outlets that I have discovered in my own self that have helped to metaphorically open the heart space. So when I say Open Hearts Club, that's kind of this new avenue or this new blog that I'm just super excited about, sharing things that I'm really passionate about, and like I said, have kind of opened and softened my heart along the way. But I mean this idea of like this heart that we have that can become like very rigid based on all the things that we do in our lives and how we feel about things. And this phrase just kept coming up, like open-hearted, open-hearted, open-hearted. And I was like, ooh, I really loved the Beatles. And I remember Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. And so I said, why not have something called Open Hearts Club? And that could be a space to share, to expose, to be vulnerable, to be open, to just kind of talk about healing and the heart space and what does it mean to be a human. And I can promise you that it won't be a very continuous flow of information, but it is my hope to inspire and to cultivate a space of wellness for yourself and for you to kind of do the deep inquiry of how can you soften your own heart space. And so I want to make sure I'm recording. And so I feel it's something that we all have a right to and that we all have access to. It's not something that we can buy, right? Like we can purchase things in this material world that might make us feel better and might like help soften the heart space, but essentially it comes from our own inner knowing and like our own inner wisdom, and that's something that's really beautiful and something that we can't take for granted. So this idea of the Open Hearts Club is essentially this online space where I hope to share things through email newsletter, through blogs, through photos and videos, and just me learning how to be more myself and giving you permission along the way to be yourself as well. I promise that it won't be, I don't want to say beautiful, but it won't be picture perfect all the time and whatever that means. It's a space of exploration, of creativity, of cooking, of nutrition. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of a history of myself and kind of who I am and where am I going, so you can decide if you, dear internet human, want to join along on that journey. And it's something that I've been kind of meditating on and thinking a lot about because I'm naturally a person who really wants to put a lot of stuff out there and share constantly. And I kind of have this thing where I'm like, everybody look at me, I'm doing something incredible. And I think a lot of people have that in their own way, but it's just part of my makeup, it's part of who I am, and it might be related to some things in my life, but we're not going to talk about that. But essentially my life trajectory for most of my I'm 33 now, I'm turning 34 in a couple days, in a week. And I've always identified as an artist. I've always said I'm an artist. I went to school to be an artist. I got my bachelor's in art. I got my master's in art. I've always studied art. I've been in college for like 8 years, almost 8 years. I've taught at universities. I've taught at community colleges and art centers. Like I've always done something with art and with being creative. And art will always have a special place in my heart, but I just realized that a lot of the art that I created had come from a very dark, dark place, and that's okay. That's part of the human experience too. But it was essentially like journal pages. Like it was very cathartic, just making things and processing my life, and never really having a chance to talk about it. And I'm so grateful for those years. I wouldn't take them back. I know the 20s are hard, the teens are hard, and all these weird things that we go through in our lives. And art is a necessary part of healing, and it is for a lot of people, and it will continue to be for many people. But for myself, I just realized that it was getting to be kind of difficult to hold on to these artifacts of time for myself. Like they were just there, physical art pieces that were just there, things that I've spent many, many hours on, and many tears and many joys and buying, art materials and things like that to create. And a lot of the work was just coming from a very heavy place. And so I found myself getting kind of triggered, because I am a very emotionally sensitive person, especially for anyone who knows me personally. That is one of my greatest gifts on this planet, but it's also a difficult thing to live with, because you do feel so deeply. I'm definitely someone who feels quite intensely. And so I was inspired actually by John Baldessari, an artist whom I'm sure many of you have heard of if you've studied art or art history, but he essentially burned everything from his studio and a lot of his artwork. And he was a very famous artist, and it was, kind of this radical act, but it was also very beautiful too, because it's almost like you're clearing the space, you're making a fresh start, you're starting things over. And I've always clung on to that. Even when I've taught art classes to students, I'm always like, let's talk about John Baldessari. He's interesting, right? And so it's kind of like I basically took all of my artwork, almost all of it. I saved some of it, and the pieces that I saved are my favorite, and they are warm light. They feel good when I look at them, and I want other people to feel good when they look at them too. And so I've saved a very small collection of my art, but I essentially did this very small little ceremony where I took all of it, most of it, and I ripped it up. And it was very difficult, and I can actually feel like inside myself I'm getting a little emotional right now, but it was like a very necessary act for me. Like I have to clear the space to make room for more things, and that might not be true for everybody, but that's just how I operate. It makes sense in my head, and I really like that. For me, it meant like emotionally detaching myself from these things, these objects of art, literally. But it was a beautiful moment. I essentially put it all on my kitchen table, and I said like a prayer, like a thank you, like, wow, like you served me so well, and thank you to my gifts, my human earth gifts, that I'm able to create things and have this intense drive to be creative. And so I said thank you, and I tore it all up, and it was really weird, and I didn't expect that, but I just had this feeling, like this inner knowing of like, you just gotta let go. Like, where can I let go? And that was the space. It was kind of like, this is my identity though. Like, I am an artist. And I'm always going to be an artist, like I said. I'm just being dramatic because I think it's funny. But yeah, it was really cool to do that, and really special as someone who's trying to incorporate more ceremony in my life and things. I've been learning a lot from this man, Alberto Vivaldo. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but he talks about how our ancient brain learns in terms of ceremony. And so that's why we have things like rites of passage, like getting married, having a baby shower, funerals, and all these different things, because that's how our ancient brain learns. And I thought, oh my gosh, like my ancient brain is still clinging on to me as an artist. And so I'm definitely going to get a little woo, as Oprah says, woo woo on this channel, but this is just who I am. But yeah, sorry, I did this, and I thought, oh, my ancient brain is learning through this ceremony that I created. So I've always been an artist. I still have art on the internet. You can check it out. You can support it. I've done all sorts of cool things with art. I still teach art on Skillshare. I create art. I love making it, but I'm trying to be more conscious about when I do, and just realizing that I can be creative in different forms. Like, it doesn't just have to come from one basket. It can come from many. And that's actually what brings me a lot of joy. And so my new path on this new channel this new episode called The Art of Health, I'm thinking of the new direction. So I just completed my 200-hour yoga teacher training, yay, which I'm super excited about. And so it's been a beautiful spiritual quest, a physical quest, and philosophy, and just understanding of the self at a deeper level, and just wanting to really be a vessel of light to shine that onto others and get people excited about who they are and what they're able to do, and just having that inner recognition of the soul and the soul's purpose and place, and just kind of resting in that beautiful space that we all get to inhabit. And so I just am coming out of this really beautiful afterglow of yoga teacher training. I also have a great passion for cooking and nutrition and making healthy meals and health-filled meals and experiences. So you can expect to see some tips and some food and all that sort of stuff on the blog too. But I think health is the number one thing to take care of on this planet for ourselves, not just for us, but also for everyone around us. And by health, I don't mean just like you look like really cool, you look good, you look great in a bikini. I mean health as in you're nurturing yourself with the things that your body and your soul needs and desires, so that way you can feel healthy, healthful, and thriving, and live a life that's filled with more love and more intention and more grace. Grace is love in action. So it's like, what can we do and what message do I want to leave behind while I'm on this planet? And for me, it's all about that journey from going from kind of like this difficult place to like, getting somewhere that's better and happier and more peace-filled. And that's something I want to encourage others to do along their path. And I feel that food is one of the number one ways that we interact with the world. That's something we, for the most part, and I am speaking from, I would say, a more privileged place on this planet. I have access to food, and that's something to keep in mind as well. And so, like, thinking about what we consume, how we consume it, when do we consume it, where does that food come from? I'm not an expert. I'm definitely going to be learning and growing with this channel and with my own experiences, but I think that's part of the exciting part, is just like, what can we learn from each other? What can we learn from the past? And what can we learn from thinking about the future of this planet, the future of sustaining life on this planet? And these are all like small actions that we can take, and it all starts with like our own inner seed, like our own inner selves and the things that we have control over. So we don't have control over everything in our lives, but we do have control over how we react to situations. We have control over, for the most part, what we put in our bodies. And I think those, and how we spend our time. And that's like really important. I heard a quote once that was like, you are what you do in a day. And that really struck home with me, because I thought, whoa, like, what do I do in a day? And it's definitely fluctuated over the years, definitely. But now my day is filled with, I'm still trying to figure it out like most people, but I try to be very intentional about how I start my day. So things like a morning routine, and like having a movement practice, like moving, doing exercise, walking, being in nature, hiking, going somewhere new. Like, it's so important for our bodies and minds and souls to experience new things. It's exciting, it's stimulating, it creates new neural pathways that gets us excited about life. We're all living different realities, and so we can choose to like jump out of that reality and switch things up, which I think is really exciting. For myself, like, small gestures are like thinking about, what do I want to do in a day? If I am what I do in a day, then what am I doing? And so one thing I'm actively working on is trying to spend more time in nature. It's really important. So you can expect to hear a lot about nature and just, my own little personal blogs or vlogs or whatever they're called, just sharing this insight. But it's like, life is what you make it to be, and how you see it and how you perceive it and what your perspective is. And it's like, there's a lot of things that happen to us in our lifetime, and it's all about how can we thank the past? Like how I was thanking the artwork from the past, like, wow, you served me, like that was so gracious, and I'm so humbled by that. Or even thinking about like past relationships or friendships, like, wow, thank you, like you served me really well, and I learned so much from you and from this experience. And I came out a better person because I learned. And I think that's the greatest gift that we can give ourselves and humanity, and also to just be in the present moment. So that's something I'm really actively trying to step into, is like the generous present moment of like, it's always there. And if we can focus in on it, we're not living in the past and being like, oh, but this happened to me and my story is so bad and you'll never guess what he said or she said and this, that, and the other thing. And it's like clinging and then you're like creating this whole new like trajectory of who you are. So it's like, and then if you're thinking about the future, you're getting super anxious. So these are the things that I'm like, it's getting me excited just thinking about it. But this is kind of the stuff that I want to share and I hope to share on this channel. And I think health has a multi-dimensional space to it, and it isn't just the magazines and the influencers and all these people on the internet, and I don't think there's print, maybe there's printed magazines, but it's not just about that. It's not about looking like somebody else. It's all about the inside and like what you cultivate. Like, what is the seed that you plant inside yourself, like right now? Like, you don't have to wait until tomorrow or a new year or Monday. It's like you can just plant a seed and say, tomorrow I want to be a little bit more kind to myself, or gosh, I've been kind of hard on myself. I should change that right away, right? Like, we don't have to have like a big day to change and to shift, but we just have to be aware and to realize like what seeds are we planting today. And so that's kind of like my internal theme for spring, is just thinking about how here in Michigan we're finally able to start growing food again, finally, and just thinking like, what's the seed that I want to plant and that I want to cultivate, not just in the garden, but in my own inner garden, of like, how can I be better? Like, how can I grow? And like, what are some small actions that I can take to improve myself and improve my health? And so health for me is all about this vessel. Like, it's not just about the physical body, but it's also about the spiritual body, the emotional body, the energetic body, and these different parts of ourselves that we often take for granted. And so I think the physical body is something that can be interacted with through, of course, like eating. What do you choose to eat? When do you choose to eat it? Are you eating processed food and sugar, or are you like eating some good protein and like some, I'm forgetting the word. Oh, I knew this would happen. Complex carbs. Or are you sustaining yourself with like, I don't know, all this like, processed stuff, like the American diet. So that's our choice, is like what we eat, when we eat, what's the quality that we're able to afford in our given circumstance. So interacting with the world through food for our body, because what we become is from our food. So we are what we eat. Like, I remember this really silly commercial of a woman who was like walking down the street and she had like cinnamon buns on her butt, and I was like, that's so weird, what is this commercial all about? And then as I got older, I was like, oh, it's like, yeah, you eat like processed food and then that's what your body becomes. And like, I don't want to shame eating like, you know, sugary snacks and stuff like that, but in all reality, it's just not good for you. Like, it's your choice what you put in your body. But I think this channel will be more geared about kind of that conscious consumption of what we put in our bodies, and how can we eat things and consume things that will make us feel better. And those things don't have to be, you know, plain vegetables and untasty, healthy snacks and stuff like that. It can be really good, savory, delicious, complex, beautiful, but also like really simple meals. And that's what I hope to share, because I think food is such a big part of our culture in America and all over the world. But I know like the American diet is especially struggling, and a lot of people don't know how to eat. And so that's something that's my goal in this lifetime, is to help share that information and share that knowledge to encourage and inspire people. And then the other way that we interact with our body or our physical form is through movement and exercise. And so there's many different ways that we can exercise. You can walk, you can run, you can bike, you can do Pilates and yoga and strength training. And if you're just getting started, go for a walk, go for a 10-minute walk and just see how you feel. Like, it's another excuse to get out of the house, to go into nature, to meet up with someone. And again, these are all topics that I'll discuss in more depth over the nuances and of this channel, but I'm just really excited to start talking and start sharing. And so it's like going back to that idea of like, how do we take care of the physical body, and then how do we take care of the mental body? So like, what kind of thoughts are we having? Are we cultivating space for meditation, for mindfulness, for praying, for just being silent, noticing the thoughts? Like, that feels really good when you just have like a bing, like a blank pause, and you're not like, what's going on? I have no idea. So just being mindful and like cultivating a practice of attention, of where are the thoughts going and how is that contributing to how I feel and like how I show up in the world. And we have control over that. Like we can change our thoughts in an instant. Like, you know, especially for myself, like as someone who struggled with negative thought patterns, like I was negative because I was constantly thinking negative thoughts. But now that I'm thinking more positively, it's so much easier to just be like, wow, it's so beautiful out today. Or, well, I really like the way my hair dried after I washed it. Like it looks really pretty that way. And so it's like cultivating little acts of gratitude, little acts of self-love for you, because you are an incredible manifestation of a human on this planet. And it's a miracle if you think about it. And that's kind of the positivity and the light that I want to spread to others, because I think it's just so beautiful and it's so necessary to spread love and to spread light and to just be a vessel for people to feel good and to feel joy-filled and happy and to feel better about themselves, and to know that your actions are not too small. There's no action that's too small. If you're like, oh, how am I going to start eating healthy? You could do one tiny thing. Like maybe you just switch out all your other oils and you start consuming like coconut oil or avocado oil, or you go for a walk for the first like 20 minutes of the day or 10 minutes of the day. It can be small. It doesn't have to be these huge grand gestures. And like I said, I'm still learning. I'm coming from a space of student and teacher. So that's the art of health. That's kind of where I'm at today. And the journey of this channel is going to be all about the kind of mind, body, wellness experience that we're all entitled to, and just being honest and being open and being myself and sharing the things that I'm super pumped and excited about, because life really is such a gracious, beautiful experience. And I'm saying that on a cloudy day in Michigan, so imagine imagine me on a sunny day. Yeah, so it's really beautiful. And I just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your incredible, beautiful day to listen to me and to just hopefully get tuned into the vibration of love and peace and all the good things that those sweet, beautiful hippies have been saying for so long, right? And the Beatles too. So thank you for joining me for this ride of the Open Hearts Club. I'm looking forward to checking in with you next time, where we'll have some more conversations about health and wellness and overall well-being. So thank you so much. Have a beautiful day.